I'm Anquan Boldin, played 14 years in the NFL, and I'm the co-founder of the Players Coalition alongside Malcolm Jenkins. The coalition is made up of former and current players in different sports arenas, basketball, football, lacrosse, soccer. I think we're in 13 different leagues at this moment. But the reason we started the Players Coalition, me personally, I lost a cousin at the hands of law enforcement in 2015. My cousin was a drummer in the band, and on his way home from one of his gigs, he broke down on the side of the road. And breaking down on the side of the road, for him, eventually cost him his life. He was killed by an undercover officer, only for being broken down on the side of the road. And for me, the tragedy that struck my family that night ignited me to start the Players Coalition. I understood that as a professional athlete, that I had a voice and that I had a platform, and that a lot of times when professional athletes speak, a lot of people listen. So I wanted to use my voice to make a difference in our country and how we address different issues. So after that happened, I started to search out different players in the NFL that were doing work in the community that they live and also in the communities that they played in. And coming, doing that research about the guys in the NFL that was actually doing work already. I think I came up with initially 5 or 6 different guys. And those 5 and 6 different guys, I invited them to come along with me to the Capitol in Washington, D.C. to talk to different congressmen and senators. After talking to those congressmen and senators, we quickly found out that we had to turn our attention to the state and local levels. And that's exactly what we did, beginning to meet with different governors from different states, different DAs, different sheriffs, the people that really make a difference in our day-to-day lives in the communities that we lived in. I think there you have Angela and Rebecca, who's a part of the Players Coalition, and they were a part of the Players Coalition from the beginning. And I think they're going to take you through different slides and show you the work that we were able to do, the pieces of legislation that we were able to get changed in different states across the country, all because we used our voices and we united together. And I think that's one thing that we have to understand, especially in the sports arena. There's a lot of work that we can do on our own, and there's a lot that we can get accomplished on our own. But I think when we come together and we unite and we use our voices collectively, we can make an even greater impact on the changes that we want to see happen in this country. So right now, I'll turn it over to Angela and Rebecca and let them present the slides.
Thank you very much, Anquan. I'll wait for the slides, please. Thank you. Next slide, please. Again, my name is Angela LaChica. Our company is the management firm for Players Coalition. When I first formed LaChica Sports and Entertainment Group, I very intentionally set out to create a space, a professional space for women in the business of sport. As I sit here today, over almost 20 years later, we are proudly an all-female management team. Our mission is to place social change at the forefront of athlete impact. It's a privilege to be here today to share the meaningful work that the Players Coalition is doing in this space, as well as our role behind the scenes in the management side. As many here know, athlete activism can be complex and nuanced. Since its inception, the Players Coalition has reliably had a team of committed females working behind the scenes, all females, from top-level strategists to program managers to player relations specialists, subject matter experts, and more. We've worked alongside many high-profile athletes, and we're keenly aware of the weight that it carries to use their very public platforms with intention and responsibility. One of the things I did want to share about Anquan's his accolades off the field was that in 2015, he was recognized with the NFL's most prestigious award for his community stewardship and humanitarian efforts. It's the Walter Payton Man of the Year. It's highly coveted, and I can tell you he's deeply sorry he's not here in person to meet with you, as this has been a really important topic to him. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, sorry. So as he said, Players Coalition was formed. It was really intentionally formed back in 2016 around 4 specific pillars that were important to those NFL athletes at the time. We were able to galvanize players around the league and put them in buckets and create really strategic activations and campaigns based on the issues that were close to their heart and that meant something that they could get behind and speak really, really authentically to.
And with that, the next slide, please. I'll share just a little bit. Wanted to mention the Players Coalition structure. It's an entirely independent 501c3 organization as well as a 501c4, allowing them to do the charitable and community impact work as well as advocacy and activism around specific legislation and policy that they're hoping to change to address the systemic changes needed in our country. So, demonstrating impact that levels up to the Players Coalition's overarching priorities of driving systemic change and investing resources into local communities has been critical to the Players Coalition's success and to its credibility. So some of the impact highlights that we're most proud to share with you include influencing and passing over 30 pieces of legislation over the past 7 years, investing and directing more than $50 million in grant funding to grassroots organizers, schools, community-based organizations that are on the ground at the forefront of this work across the country. We've engaged athletes in activism through more than 125 different op-eds, written testimony, as well as letters to the editor and policy around legislative reforms. Next slide, please. And this highlights just some of the specific legislative wins across the country, from ending juvenile life without parole, restoring voting rights to over 1.4 million citizens with past convictions, among many other critical issues. We can move to the next slide.
So I know we're short on time. Oops. Excuse me, we're short on time, so I'll run through this real quickly. In 2007, the players had organized and went intentionally to the NFL to create a strategic partnership that would amplify the athletes' voices. This resulted in an $89 million commitment from the NFL to social justice efforts. It was a historic commitment made in any space of the organization, in the corporate and nonprofit. The athletes understood that they were going to leverage the NFL's platform, and that was their main ask. What you see here are some very intentional examples of the Players Coalition coming together to create NFL's Inspired Change program. We did initiatives with Say Her Name and the New Orleans Saints, which focused on Black maternal health care. We focused on using the on-field game helmet decals. Let My People Vote was a campaign we did to restore voting rights in several states across the country. So we really were able to activate their platform with intentionality, and making sure that we had calls to action when we used this platform. Next slide, please. So here, what you'll see, on February 2nd, 2020, the power of this partnership reached its pinnacle when the NFL agreed to designate one of its Super Bowl commercial spots to a PSA, bringing attention to Anquan's very personal journey of tragedy turned to purpose. For the NFL to use one of its largest stages to address the issues of racism, police brutality, and lack of accountability directly speaks to the measurable impact and credibility Players Coalition has established over the years. The date is of particular importance, as it was a full 3 months before the world witnessed the tragic killing of George Floyd. The NFL stepped out of its comfort zone and trusted the players as credible messengers in this space long before any other large corporation did so. That year's Super Bowl viewership was estimated at over 100 million people tuning in from around the world. Please play the video.
Yeah, I'll never forget that night. I was still playing with the 49ers, and my wife walks up after the game. They told me that my cousin Corey had been killed. Corey broke down on the side of the road, and a plainclothes police officer pulled up. Then this guy starts screaming. All you hear from there is 3 shots.
Why's my son gone today? Why?
He would give you his shirt. He would be cold just to keep you warm.
This officer was in plain clothes. Corey had no way of knowing who he was.
There's just some things that are bigger than football. And I felt like starting the Players Coalition and affecting change in this country was one of those things. We focused on police-community relations, education and economic advancement, and criminal justice reform. Had it not been for the work that we do, Corey's death would have been in vain. The best way to inspire change is to be it.
That is an example of true partnership in action, driven by committed athletes who all have a story and use their platforms with intention.
And so with that, we just wanted to thank you all for the opportunity to be here and look ahead at what's next with Players Coalition and the natural evolution of Players Coalition. They've had the opportunity to make such an impact here in the United States and are also open to and looking forward to expanding globally as well with players and working collaboratively, cross-sectionally to really advance change in that space. So did want to take this opportunity to share with you also that natural evolution of Players Coalition has begun as a new organization co-founded by Angela, Anquan, and myself called Sport for Impact that is focused on providing the athletes the empowerment and the resources to leverage the power of sport as the catalyst for social change, both hyper-locally in their communities where they're most connected and passionate, but also on that global scale. With Sport for Impact's overarching charitable purpose being to educate and empower the athletes around strategic sport for development opportunities, intentional philanthropy, and the power of issue-driven collective action to advance public good. So with that, we see incredible alignment and opportunity in promoting and advancing the SDGs and hopefully establishing connection and opportunity with all of your organizations as well. So thank you.